How to Win Friends and Influence People shares lots of helpful advice. First, we'll look at the main ideas and then give tips for two common situations: dealing with disagreements and giving feedback. Key ideas. People want to feel important. Make someone feel valued, and they'll think highly of you. If you make them feel unimportant, they'll resent you. Focus on what others want. Most people care more about their own needs than yours. Think of it like fishing. You wouldn't use cake as bait for fish, you'd use worms, which they like. Always ask yourself, what does this person want? Everyone can teach you something valuable. By finding out what that is, you can truly appreciate them. Often, people are mad because they feel ignored. Showing empathy can calm them down. Meet others with a positive attitude. Smile and be friendly. A person's name means a lot to them. Use it often and respect it. Be a good listener. Encourage others to talk about themselves and ask questions they'll enjoy. When trying to influence, praise and appreciation work better than giving orders. Start with kindness, not criticism or complaints. Criticism makes people defensive. Praise first to make them more open to your feedback. How to handle disagreements. Stay calm and keep your temper in check. What makes a person angry tells a lot about them. Strong people stay cool in tough situations. Have an open mind. I might be wrong, and if I am, I want to know. Let's discuss the facts together. Praise the other person for qualities like patience or fairness that can help resolve the disagreement. Understand their viewpoint too. If you were in their shoes, you might feel the same way. Try to see what experiences shape their views. Show empathy. You're right to be upset. I'd feel the same in your situation. Listen and let them express their thoughts without cutting them off. Ask them where they see issues and seek their ideas for solutions. Ask questions instead of giving commands. Find common ground and build understanding by discussing shared goals. When ready, guide the conversation with questions that lead them to your point, starting with areas of agreement. This way, they feel they reach the conclusion themselves. Highlight how your idea benefits them. Mention the downsides of your approach and ask their thoughts. They'll often downplay the negatives themselves. Thank those who disagree with you. They are interested in the same topics and may offer helpful insights. How to give feedback. Always begin with appreciation and frequent praise, even before giving feedback. This softens the impact of any future criticism. When giving feedback, start by pointing out things done well. Then, talk about the area needing improvement. Share your own past mistakes to show you understand. I made the same error when I was in your situation. Ask questions instead of issuing commands. What do you think about this? Do you think that would work? Getting their suggestions helps them take ownership. Give them a positive reputation to uphold. Act as if the desired trait is already one of their strengths. You're known for being a hard worker, and I trust you'll keep it up. Make mistakes seem easy to fix, showing it's not about ability. You have the skills, just need a little more practice. Link improvement to something they've done well before. If you did this task before, you can easily handle the next one. Present improvements in a way that aligns with their personal goals, like better performance, more free time, or career growth. Rule 1. Avoid criticizing or complaining. The book starts with 3 main ideas that support all the other chapters. The key point, repeated throughout the book, is that people want to feel important, so pay close attention to this. Principles. People don't criticize themselves, no matter how wrong they are. Remember, people are driven by emotions, have their own viewpoints, and are motivated by pride. Criticizing someone often makes them defensive, and they justify their actions. Even Al Capone felt misunderstood, insisting he was only helping others during Prohibition. Family members of criminals often deny wrongdoing, blaming external factors instead. Criticism damages a person's pride and sense of self-worth. Criticizing might feel satisfying short-term, but it's harmful in the long run, as people hold grudges for a long time. Anyone can criticize or complain. It takes strength to understand and forgive. Approaches. Think about the details you might not know about the situation. Consider the best possible explanation for the mistake before judging. You'd likely behave similarly if you were in the same situation. During the Civil War, Lincoln could have harshly blamed General Meade for a loss, but instead, he imagined the chaos and fear at the battlefront. Parents often scold children for not meeting adult standards. Remember they are just kids, and recall how you felt under criticism from your own parents. Even when someone makes a big mistake, instead of harsh criticism, encourage them to meet their usual high standards. Bob Hoover, after his plane crashed due to a fuel mix-up, reassured the mechanic by expressing his trust for future work instead of getting angry. If you're about to send an angry message, sleep on it. You'll likely feel less angry the next day. Examples. A wife asked her husband how she could improve. Instead of criticizing, he thought for a day, then gave her 6 roses, saying he liked her just as she was. A safety officer noticed workers not wearing helmets. He didn't scold them but reminded them that helmets were for their safety, appealing to their interest in staying healthy. 2. Genuinely appreciate others. Principles. People need to feel important almost as much as they need food and air. This desire leads them to brag about their kids, dress to catch eyes, show off wealth with cars and homes, give to charity, or do things that get their names on mountains and stars. Sometimes, it can even drive people to commit crimes to gain fame, appearing in the news next to celebrities and leaders. It might also push someone to act helpless just to get attention and sympathy they don't really require. It's unthinkable to deny someone food for 6 days. Yet we often go 6 months without giving anyone a compliment. See everyone you meet as having something to teach you. Find out what they're good at and learn from them. Appreciation fuels excitement, while criticism crushes dreams. Schwab once said he never met anyone who didn't perform better when praised compared to when criticized. Tactics. When someone slips up, highlight what's positive about the situation. For example, when Rockefeller's partner lost money overseas, Rockefeller praised him for recovering 60% of it, which was often more than they usually manage during setbacks. Spread small acts of appreciation daily. Tell a tired worker they have a great attitude. Public speakers know how tough it is to finish without hearing any praise. Avoid empty flattery and only commend what you truly value. Flattery often means complimenting others on things you care about, not necessarily what they do. Schwab advises, be genuine in approval and generous with praise. Celebrate people in public to make them feel valued. Examples. Stevie Wonder, blind since childhood, never had his blindness seen as a strength, until a teacher asked him to find a lost mouse in the classroom because of his extraordinary hearing. This moment sparked a whole new perspective for him. 3. Focus on what others want. Principles. Think about fishing. You love cheesecake, but you wouldn't use it as bait. Instead, you use something the fish likes, like a worm. Why treat people differently? While you care about what you want, others are focused on their own desires. To influence someone, talk about what they want and how they can achieve it. Everyone knows and cares about their own goals. Approach them with their interests in mind. Make them eager for what they desire. The secret to getting someone to do something is to make them want to do it. Henry Ford said, "Success comes from understanding the other person's perspective, not just your own." Tactics. Before speaking, consider what the other person stands to gain. Challenge yourself to avoid focusing on your needs. Show others you genuinely want to help them. In a world where many are self-centered, those who selflessly serve others stand out. Do things that aren't directly related to what you're asking for, like a real estate agent helping a client with a personal issue. When you want someone to do something, don't brag about yourself or your company and then ask for help. Instead, point out what they might miss by not acting and the benefits they'll gain by cooperating. For example, a freight terminal asked a supplier to send trucks earlier by explaining how it would benefit the supplier, not just the terminal. If someone disagrees with your plan, clearly outline the pros and cons of their alternatives and highlight the benefits of your suggestion. When applying for jobs, emphasize how you can help the company achieve its objectives. Salespeople don't simply sell products. They show how these products solve problems, making people want to buy. Customers prefer to make purchases rather than feel they're being sold to. To encourage participation in an event, focus on the fun they'll experience, not your loneliness. If words fail, demonstrations can be powerful. A Shell territory manager struggling with a low-performing store didn't lecture. He took the manager to visit a successful station inspiring the manager to improve. Examples: Andrew Carnegie's niece and nephew rarely wrote back to him. He bet he could get a response without directly asking for one. He wrote a letter mentioning he was sending $5 but didn't include it. They replied, asking about the money, proving his point. A child didn't want to attend kindergarten, so parents listed exciting activities like finger painting. When they started finger painting without the child, she was eager to join, and they explained she needed to go to kindergarten first. Instead of telling your kid to stop smoking, show them how it affects their appearance at 40. If a child refuses to eat, connect eating well with success in another area, like dealing with a bully, by explaining how being stronger can help her handle the situation. Likability 1. Be genuinely interested in others. To make people like you, show them they matter. Be happy to see them. Let them talk about what they enjoy, use their name, and sincerely praise what they are proud of. Principles. Think of a dog, friendly and always thrilled to see you. Just like that, showing interest makes others feel valued. Everyone likes people who admire them. People are mostly interested in themselves. When you see a group photo, whose face do you look for first? It's crucial to be sincere. You make friends by being interested in them, rather than getting them interested in you. Tactics. Ask about their background and goals. Remember their issues and share solutions when you find them. Talk to people regardless of their position. Show genuine interest in those above you. When traveling, speak their language and try to understand their world. Remember birthdays and do something about them. Greet people warmly. On the phone, if you know who's calling, respond with enthusiasm, not just a cold hello. Examples. An editor could tell if an author liked people from their writing, and if not, readers wouldn't like the stories. A famous magician loved his audience and aimed to give them his best. Employers often ask front desk staff about applicants, rejecting rude ones. A banker who learned about a president's grandson's stamp collection found some stamps for him, earning friendliness in return. A fuel vendor finally won over a large chain store by engaging in a debate that piqued the manager's interest, leading to a new order. Likability 2. Smile. Principles. Smiling conveys that you like someone, are happy to see them, and appreciate them. It's a friendly gesture that makes people feel valued, which is why smiling babies and happy dogs are so loved. Enjoy meeting others, so they'll enjoy meeting you too. Tactics. When talking on the phone, smile to change your tone positively. Greet people with lively enthusiasm, and if you know who's calling, answer warmly instead of with a plain hello. Smile at people who rarely receive smiles, like those in service roles, to brighten their day. If you're not in the mood, try forcing a smile, hum a tune, or pretend to be happy. It can actually make you feel better. Envision the person you want to become, and you'll naturally act in ways that make it happen. Likability tip 3. Use their name. Principles. A name defines a person and sets them apart. Remembering and using it makes someone feel valued. To them, it's the most significant word because it represents their identity. Using their name is a kind gesture, while forgetting or misspelling it shows a lack of attention. As a politician might say, remembering a voter's name is wise, forgetting it spells trouble. In business, forgetting names can imply neglect of important connections. People invest in preserving their names for posterity through things like building dedications. Tactics. Use the person's name several times during a conversation. It will help you remember it and make the chat more pleasant. Associate the name with something about the person to help it stick. If it's an uncommon name, ask how to spell it. Make an effort to pronounce difficult names correctly, especially those from other cultures. Address emails or letters with warmth. Learn the names of your customers, particularly in retail. Also, remember the names of the staff you interact with regularly. Examples. When Carnegie was a boy, he had many rabbits. He promised to name a rabbit after anyone who helped him gather food for them. Later, to win the business of the Pennsylvania Railroad run by Edgar Thomson, he named a steel mill Edgar Thomson Steel Works. He wanted a merger with Pullman, the sleeping car company. Mentioning that the new company would keep the Pullman name made Pullman more enthusiastic about the deal. Likability 4. Listen well. Encourage others to talk. Guidelines. Being a good conversationalist is simple. 1. Show real, focused interest, and 2. Encourage the other person to talk. You don't have to say much unless they ask you to join in. A person's own life is the most important to them. Even minor personal issues can feel more significant than major events elsewhere. Letting someone talk makes them feel valued. If you want to make friends, let others share their successes. Talking about yourself too much often leaves others feeling insecure or envious. Angry people often just want to be heard. Frustrated customers tire of being ignored. By listening patiently and acknowledging any mistakes, they may relax and be more reasonable. We appreciate hearing from you. Your feedback helps us understand how others might feel too. Please continue sharing your experiences. Once someone feels listened to, they often calm down. Poor conversationalists don't focus on the other person. Instead, they're preoccupied with what they want to say next. Tips: to engage others, show you're interested. Ask questions that they'll enjoy answering. Encourage them to share about themselves and their successes. Ask respected people about their backgrounds, which might lead them to share more. Everyone likes to talk about overcoming tough times. Show genuine appreciation and praise. Tell them how interesting their stories are. Express a desire to learn from their experiences and suggest getting together again. Likability 5. Talk about their interests. Principles: don't use something irrelevant to attract interest. Instead, focus on what the other person cares about. People are more interested in topics they like than in what only interests you. Tactics: before meeting someone, find out what they like so you can talk about it knowledgeably. Look for signs of their interests, like keepsakes or news articles. Show genuine interest and ask them about these. Find out their main goals and talk about how you can help them achieve these goals. This is especially useful for job applications. Notice what people spend their time on and take pride in. Highlight this and show appreciation. Examples: a Boy Scout troop manager sought funding from a company president. He learned the president had once dealt with a bounced $1 million check. At their meeting, he asked to see it, saying he wanted to brag to his friends about it. The president obliged and also agreed to fund the scouts. Notice the manager focused on the president's story, not his own needs. When applying for a job, if the founder is driven by power or money, discuss how you can help make more money. If they're mission-oriented, emphasize how you'll further their mission. A man visiting his elderly aunt-in-law admired her home and its quality. He showed interest where others didn't, leading her to leave him her late husband's car due to his appreciation for fine things. Likability 6. Make others feel important. This is a recap of the main ideas. Key ideas: most people naturally feel superior in some way. Let them sense you see their worth subtly. Avoid doing anything that might make them feel small or unimportant. To those who are self-confident, recognizing their importance shows your good judgment. Tips: offer a sincere compliment easily. For example, "I wish I had your hair." Praise others without expecting anything in return. Do it just to spread positivity and boost their mood. It benefits both of you in the long run. Use phrases like, "I'm sorry to trouble you. Would you mind? I know you're busy," and "thank you." Give special attention to those often overlooked: elderly, less privileged, service workers, front desk staff. Recognize that everyone has faced hard times. Ask about their challenges and acknowledge them. Praise someone's work publicly. Example: a salesperson visiting Eastman of Kodak had only 5 minutes. He complimented the office, and Eastman discussed its materials. By admiring the view and Eastman's philanthropic efforts, the conversation extended much longer. The salesperson asked about Eastman's early struggles, which led to a deeper conversation and eventually clinched the sale. Note: even prominent people need genuine appreciation, as they often encounter those who want something from them. Part 3. How to get others to share your perspective. Praise is great, but what should you do if someone disagrees with you? That's what this section of How to Win Friends and Influence People covers. Don't react by arguing back. People don't enjoy being told they're wrong or need to change their minds. Being corrected can hurt their pride because everyone wants to feel important. Even if you think it's crucial to show you're the smartest one in the room, others might not appreciate it. Instead, try a different approach. Admit that you don't have all the answers, and that if you were in their position, you'd probably see things their way too. Talk about the shared goals you have, and express that you just want to understand the differences in your thoughts. Allow them to share their views fully without interruptions. If you still want to make your point, Guide them using questions that lead to agreement, helping them realize your idea as their own. We've reorganized the chapters to show what steps to take when you face a disagreement. Argument 1. Keeping calm in a dispute. Principles. Why point out someone's mistake if they didn't ask for your opinion? Doing so might not make her like you. Let her maintain her dignity instead. Telling someone they're wrong can make them feel small and damage their pride. Even if you're right, she might resent you for it. Here's a poetic reminder. Here lies William J., who insisted he was right. But he still met his end, proving his point until the very last moment. A friend told Ben Franklin, "You're difficult because no one can tell you anything. You're so knowledgeable that it seems tiring to engage with you. As a result, you might stay unaware of things you don't know, which is quite a lot." Tactics. Question your gut reaction. Stay calm and watch out for immediate anger. Keep your temper in check. You can tell a lot about a person by what angers her. If someone keeps arguing about something you think is wrong but you want to move forward, agree with them. They'll eventually stop. Thank your opponents genuinely for their interest. If someone disagrees with you, they care about the same things you do. See them as people trying to help you. Accept disagreements. They can prevent mistakes. If two partners always agree, one of them isn't needed. Consider your opponent's ideas carefully and promise to think them over. Delay decision-making to give both sides time to consider the issue. Examples. A tax consultant was stuck in an audit, feeling the inspector made an error. They were at a deadlock until the consultant admitted, "I have theoretical knowledge. You have hands-on experience. I could learn a lot from your job." This led the inspector to talk more, and eventually, the consultant's situation was resolved. Arguments 2. Approach with kindness. Principles. Don't start with aggression. It just leads to more hostility. People naturally resist changing their minds, and they can't be forced to agree. But they can be gently guided to see your perspective. Show understanding of the other side and approach with humility. Suggest sitting down together to understand why you differ and identify the key issues. Demonstrate that you are a genuine friend. Consider how you would attract an animal not by chasing it, but by offering a treat. A little kindness draws people in more effectively than hostility. Tactics. Even if you feel you have the upper hand, approach as though you're asking for permission to offer feedback. When requesting something, instead of complaining about how unfair things are, focus on what you value and how the situation might disrupt that. When addressing a complaint with a company, start by praising the service, then calmly explain the issue to help them improve. If someone complains to you, express that you're there to listen and learn, not to argue. Mistakes happen, and understanding is key. Examples. Rockefeller faced strikers who disliked him. He spent time with them and their families, then gave a warm speech. "This is a memorable day for me. It's the first time I've met the employee representatives of this great company. I'm proud to be here, and I'll cherish this meeting always. 2 weeks ago, I would have been a stranger to most of you. But after visiting all the camps, your homes, and meeting your families, we are now friends. I appreciate the chance to discuss our shared interests. Thanks to your kindness." A motor company president dealt with strikers by praising their peacefulness in an ad. He bought them sports equipment and invited them for games. This friendly gesture led the strikers to voluntarily clean up the factory. Someone had a landlord who raised the rent. Instead of arguing about the unfairness, they expressed appreciation for the home and the landlord's management, then mentioned wanting to stay another year but being unable to afford it. Respecting others' opinions. Principles. When people feel attacked for being wrong, they tend to become defensive and stick to their opinions more firmly. They might miss the bigger picture, searching for exceptions to prove their point. We often accept beliefs without much thought, yet defend them intensely when challenged. It's better to have an open mind. I might be wrong. I often am. If that's the case, I want to know. Let's look at the situation together. Try to understand the other person's perspective. Instead of judging right away, take time to see what they believe. This helps reduce tension and encourages them to also consider they might be mistaken. Engaging in this way may shift the conversation to focus on being humble, understanding, and open-minded rather than just being right. As people often don't want to be outdone, it changes the dynamics of the discussion. Tactics. Always respect the other person's opinions and never say, "You're wrong." Be open to the idea that you could be mistaken. If dealing with an upset customer, acknowledge that mistakes happen and invite them to share more about their situation. Avoid using words that suggest absolute certainty like certainly, of course, or undoubtedly. Instead, use phrases like I imagine or it seems to me. Ask others where they think the problems lie and what solutions they recommend. This approach might naturally guide them to agree with your perspective. Examples. An engineering supervisor once introduced a new system for managing yarn, claiming it was the best solution. Her proposal failed because management wasn't given a chance to acknowledge issues with the current system, making them defensive. In a later meeting, she asked about their challenges and sought their input on resolving them, which helped her solution gain acceptance. A lumber salesman faced rejections from a buyer's quality inspector who didn't fully understand the white pine being assessed. Instead of blaming the inspector for not knowing the standard guidelines, the salesman asked questions about the rejected pieces, underlining a desire to improve future deliveries. This shifted the inspector's perspective, leading him to realize he lacked the expertise to evaluate the white pine. The salesman courteously assured that if the inspector deemed a piece unsuitable, they would accept the rejection. This approach gradually made the inspector rethink his decisions and recognize their company should have specified the right quality grade. Arguments 4. If you're wrong, admit it. Principles. Many people naturally defend their position, so admitting you're wrong can be surprising. Most folks don't want to attack someone who's already acknowledging their own mistake. In fact, they might even defend you and help you recover. When someone feels important, the only way for them to boost their ego further is to show kindness. Tactics. If you make a mistake at work, confess quickly without making excuses. Your coworkers might step in to minimize the impact. Let go of the pride that insists the other person should admit fault first. They're probably feeling the same way. If you value results, admit your mistake first. When someone criticizes your work, handle it with grace. Say something like, honestly, I'm not completely satisfied with it myself. Not everything I wrote yesterday appeals to me today. I appreciate your feedback. Admit any faults the other person might be thinking. This approach often encourages forgiveness and reduces the severity of your mistakes. Examples. Dale Carnegie once got a warning from a police officer for not having his dog on a leash. When confronted again, instead of arguing, Dale admitted, I'm guilty. I have no excuses. You told me if I did it again, I'd get fined. By acknowledging the officer's authority, the officer relaxed and showed mercy instead of issuing a fine. Arguments 5. Let others speak. Principles. When someone disagrees with you, they'll likely ignore what you're saying if they feel unheard. Encourage them to share their thoughts thoroughly. If you've ever fought with someone and just kept going in circles, it might be because they didn't feel heard. Try not to interrupt them. Every time you do, it disrupts the conversation. The more you let them speak, the more open they will be to your ideas. Conversations help people organize their thoughts. Even if someone disagrees initially, talking things through might lead them to your viewpoint on their own. People prefer to come to conclusions by themselves rather than being told what to think. This is crucial for those you may feel inclined to lecture, such as employees, children, students, or even parents. Tactics. Encourage them to share their story completely. Make them feel like the expert by saying, you know your situation better than I do. You're the expert here. I want to hear you out. Point out the downsides of your own solution and ask for their opinion. They often will then downplay those downsides. Examples. A salesperson lost his voice before a presentation. He wrote down his pitch, and the president of the customer's company spoke up on his behalf, praising the work and taking the salesperson's stance. A mother usually lectured her child about chores and social outings, leading to arguments. One time, she asked why the child behaved a certain way and listened. The child shared her concerns, allowing the mother to become more of a confidant rather than just a lecturer. Argument 6. Seeing things from someone else's perspective. Principles. Start by imagining that if you were in your partner's shoes, with their body, life experiences, and way of seeing things, you'd likely think and act just like them. The goal is to understand how their thoughts differ from yours, not dismiss their views. If you lived as Al Capone, you'd make the same choices he did, simply because you'd be him. Avoid thinking, no reasonable person would think like my opponent. This mindset leads to endless conflicts. Everyone has reasons for their thoughts and actions. Find out why they think or act that way, and you'll understand how to influence them. Treat the other person's ideas and feelings as equal to your own. This mindset will help you learn what matters to them, allowing you to shape your arguments to match their interests. Tactics. When someone is upset, they feel justified, regardless of your opinion. Pointing out that they're being unreasonable doesn't help. Before trying to change their mind, consider why they might feel or act that way, focusing on their interests to be effective. Examples. A husband often complained about his wife's gardening because he thought it made no difference to their home's appearance. They argued frequently. One day, he realized she took pleasure and pride in it. He started helping her and praised the garden's look. When advising teenagers not to burn down forests, Dale Carnegie engaged them in conversation. He spoke about enjoying similar activities in his youth and encouraged safe practices, making sure the forest remained for future enjoyment. He approached them as equals, respecting their fun while guiding them to be careful. Argument 7. Understanding the other person. Principles. When someone is upset, they usually feel their anger is justified, no matter your viewpoint. Most people don't stop to think, I know I'm being unreasonable, but I'll be mad anyway. Instead, they often exaggerate the situation in their minds. This company is taking advantage of me, of all of us. Many people just want sympathy. Feeling pitied makes them feel important because it means others are paying attention to them. Show them empathy, and they'll appreciate you for it. Start by saying, I don't blame you at all for feeling this way. If I were in your shoes, I'd feel the same. Tactics. Identify why they're upset and express it clearly. When you vocalize their concerns, they feel heard. This can even help them start to see things differently. You might say, let me make sure I understand what you're saying. I'm hearing that. Even if they apologize for their outburst, don't lose sight of the fact that you're addressing the initial problem. Avoid trying to top their stories of hardship with your own, as this can make them feel insignificant. Examples. A hotel's elevator broke, requiring 8 hours to fix, but the hotel didn't want it down for more than 2. The repairman could respond, bad approach, I don't know what to tell you. I can't fix it in 2 hours. Let me explain why it'll take longer. Good approach. I understand you need to maintain your reputation, and having an elevator down for 8 hours doesn't look good for your guests. But consider this. If we don't take 8 hours to fix it now, the problem will only get worse. The cable will keep fraying, and when it fails, it could take 3 days to repair. Worse yet, it might cause an accident, which could harm your guests and be even more damaging to your reputation. An artist manager dealt with difficult performers. One singer often pretended to be sick for sympathy to avoid performing. Response. I'm sorry to hear that you're feeling unwell. Of course, you can't perform. I'll cancel the show immediately. It will cost thousands and affect your reputation, but that's nothing compared to protecting your voice. Arguments 8. Starting with agreement. Principles. When people say no, they tend to become defensive and stubborn. This makes it difficult to change their minds later on, even if they want to. Admitting they're wrong is tough for many. So, begin with what you both agree on, getting them to say yes. Instead of forcing your ideas on them, lead them to your conclusion by asking logical questions. Start with things you both agree on, like common goals or measurements. Then, build deeper understanding by asking more specific questions. This approach helps them feel the idea is theirs since you're not forcing it on them. Tactics. Focus on the fact that you both aim for the same goals, differing only in methods. Discuss things from their perspective. For example, you might say, I know doing X can be annoying, but wouldn't you want to enjoy benefit Y? Ask simple questions they're likely to agree with, like, do you enjoy saving money? Or do you prioritize performance? Use open questions to show you're not cornering them. Examples. A bank customer didn't want to share information about next of kin. The teller agreed, you're right. This isn't necessary. But imagine if you pass away with money in the bank. Wouldn't you want it to go to the right person? A motor company customer complained about hot motors. First response, you're wrong. Check the temperature according to the guidelines. Second response, I agree. If the motors are too hot, it's our fault, and you shouldn't buy more. Let me understand. Motors can't exceed national guidelines, correct?
Yes.
The guidelines say no more than 72 degrees above room temp, right? Yes, but yours are hotter. Don't argue. How hot is this room? About 75 F. That makes 147 F. If you put your hand in 147 F water, wouldn't it burn?
Yes.
Our hands always hurt at high temperatures. Argument 9. Let them believe it's their idea. Principles. People generally like their own ideas more than others. Coming up with their own ideas makes them feel smart and valued. Doing things their way, instead of following someone else's idea, gives them control. So, isn't it a bad idea to force your ideas on someone? It's better to help them reach your conclusion on their own. Let people take credit for your ideas. If you care about results and not recognition, you'll be okay with others using your ideas. Chinese thinker Lao Tzu said, "Rivers get water from many streams by being low, so they can govern all streams." A wise person who wants to lead others stays humble. Even if they are in charge, others don't feel burdened by them. Tactics. Provide people with a way to make choices, but let them reach their decisions themselves. Example. When selling products, offer a worksheet to help customers compare features and prices. As they fill it out, they may naturally see that your product is the best. Connect them with past customers to hear about their experiences. If pitching your ideas doesn't work, ask what the customer would like to see. Admit the product isn't perfect and ask for their advice. Ask employees how they would solve a tough problem. Ask employees, what qualities do you expect from me? What qualities can I expect from you? Ask about the positives and negatives of what you're offering. If someone talks about why they like a product on their own, they might end up liking it even more. Plant ideas gently, without pushing for action. They might take root on their own. Provide references for your target customers to speak to, helping them come to their own conclusions. Examples. A designer kept getting his textile designs rejected. He changed his approach, sending unfinished sketches to the buyer, asking for suggestions to make them work. The manufacturer made suggestions and eventually accepted the new designs. A medical equipment company wanted to sell to a hospital. Instead of sending sales reps, they sent a sample machine to the head doctor, asking for his expert input to improve it. This made the doctor feel valued. He evaluated the machine and found that he liked it, reaching his own conclusion without sales pressure. Argument 10. Appeal to the best self. Principles. People generally see themselves as good and unselfish. They consider themselves helpers or heroes. They try to be honest and keep promises. If they don't, there's usually a reason. Often, people have two reasons for their actions. One that sounds good and the real one. You don't need to point out the real reason or force someone to admit they're being selfish. Highlight their better motives instead. This lets them keep their dignity and act on the higher motive. Stay above trivial fights and focus on the bigger picture. If the other person gets petty, they'll seem small-minded. Tactics. Appeal to their best intentions. To an upset customer, your patience and fairness, despite bad experiences, are impressive. Now, let's move forward with the same fairness. When someone breaks a promise, remind them of their integrity and trust they'll keep their word. Relate to common life experiences. Share your own relatable moments, like being a parent or feeling overwhelmed. If you can't offer someone enough money, suggest donating to their favorite charity, making their total payment more emotionally rewarding. Examples. A tenant wanting to leave early was reminded by the landlord of his reputation, rather than threatened with legal action. I see you as trustworthy. If you choose to break your lease, I'll see I was wrong. But I believe you'll do the right thing. An angry customer refusing to pay was told the company valued their fairness and patience, ultimately leading them to resolve the issue by adjusting the bill themselves, feeling empowered. Instead of telling a newspaper not to publish a disliked photo, a celebrity claimed their mother disliked it, appealing to shared family values. Rockefeller asked photographers not to take pictures of his kids by relating to their own experiences as parents. When the iPhone 4 had reception issues, Steve Jobs acknowledged the problem's complexity and efforts to fix it, focusing on understanding and improving user experience, rather than making excuses. Make your ideas stand out. Ideas. Most people aren't as logical as they believe. They're influenced by emotions and quick judgment shortcuts. Decisions often come from instinct. Just telling the truth isn't enough. You need to make it exciting and memorable. With attention getting harder to capture, find ways to draw it authentically. Strategies. Think of ways to visually or physically convey what's at stake. Suggestions include: use visual comparisons. Show physical objects to demonstrate size, speed, or cost. Relate opportunities to money or money per second. Make further comparisons, like equating it to the cost of a Mercedes-Benz daily. Present physical items directly to people. Highlight impressive performance with striking images that are well beyond typical use, proving reliability in regular situations. Illustrations. A sales rep noticed a slow checkout line and told the store owner they were losing money with each slow transaction. To show this, he tossed pennies on the floor. A consultant couldn't make progress with reports about facial creams, so he placed numerous annotated creams on the president's desk. An employee struggling to get time with his boss wrote a letter with a self-addressed envelope, with a fill-in-the-blank note stating, "I can meet you on at AM/PM for." In infomercials, products are memorably demonstrated, like vacuums picking up a bowling ball or waterproof tape fixing a boat. Steve Jobs introduced the iPod as having 1,000 songs in your pocket, rather than saying it had 10 gigabytes of storage. He also made a memorable impression by pulling the MacBook Air out of a manila envelope. Dale Carnegie uses examples of famous figures like Lincoln and Rockefeller, suggesting that if these techniques worked for them, they'll work for you too. Arguments 12. Issue a challenge. Principles. When motivation fails, set up a competition to get people moving. No one likes to come in second, which is why contests and sports are fun. The drive to improve and succeed motivates people. A chance to shine and prove their value is appealing. All people have fears, but the brave overcome them, advancing not just to confront danger, but to achieve victory. Kingsguard in ancient Greece. Tactics. If someone is hesitant, gently question their courage or determination. Say something like, "I understand if you're nervous. It's a difficult situation. It'll require someone strong to take on this task." Display a public scoreboard showing the results you care about. One idea for managers is to pretend there's a dangerous competitor ready to overtake your company. How would they outsmart you? How is their product so clever? This can offer insights on what to improve on. Examples. Charles Schwab faced issues with a poorly performing mill that wouldn't respond to the manager's efforts. He asked for chalk and wrote the number of completed tasks on the floor. When the night shift noticed, they aimed to beat that record, leading to improvement. Carnegie uses this strategy to persuade readers to follow his advice. If you're happy with your current state, don't change. But if not, why not try my suggestions? Feedback 1. Start with praise. In the last section of the book, it talks about how to give feedback. Instead of starting with an argument like in part 3, you notice something that needs improvement and want to talk about it. This advice is helpful in all types of relationships, whether with your boss, coworkers, or team members. Even your bosses like to hear praise for their efforts and understand the challenges they face. Principles. People are more willing to listen to criticism if it comes after some positive comments about their strengths. Without any praise, feedback can feel wholly critical and overlook the hard work put in. It's even more effective when someone expects you to be upset about the work. Genuine appreciation can be a pleasant surprise, making them more open to feedback. They feel trusted and are more inclined to improve rather than justifying their actions. Tactics. Be sincere when you praise. You need to truly value the work to sound believable. Offer specific compliments about particular achievements instead of vague comments. Avoid using a standard formula for praise. Don't offer compliments that aren't genuinely relevant or could apply to almost anyone. Examples. A subcontractor was running late on some parts. A manager from the construction company visited the president. First, the manager noted the uniqueness of the president's name, the only one in Brooklyn. Then, he praised the factory's cleanliness. During a tour, he complimented specific machines that the president had designed. By the end of lunch, the president acknowledged the manager's intent and promised the parts would be shipped on time, even if it meant delaying other items. Feedback 2. Point out problems indirectly. Principles. Avoid being too direct when highlighting mistakes. People usually know when they've messed up, and pointing it out straightforwardly can feel like giving orders, which may lead to pushback. By being subtle, you give the person a chance to realize the issue on their own. This approach helps them maintain their pride and encourages them to think, I had a reason for the last mistake, but not anymore. I'll fix things now. Tactics. After praising someone, genuinely use and instead of but. For example, instead of saying, you've worked really hard, but you could have avoided these mistakes, try saying, you've worked really hard, and by focusing on creating a checklist, you can boost your accuracy. This way, the person doesn't feel like a failure. If a task is not being done properly, complete it yourself and then show it to the person. This demonstrates the right way to do it without direct criticism. Examples. When McKinley wasn't happy with his speech, he told his speechwriter, "That's a great speech. No one could have done a better job. It suits many occasions perfectly. But is it the right fit for this event?" Charles Schwab saw workers smoking where it wasn't allowed. Instead of scolding them, he gave them cigars and suggested, "I'd appreciate it if you smoked these outside." John Wanamaker noticed a customer being ignored while salespeople chatted. He helped the customer himself, then handed the items to the salespeople to be wrapped, making the oversight obvious without saying a word. When a eulogy writer's wife read his work and found it dull, she commented, "That would make a great article for the North American Review." A dentist observed his cleaner neglecting a metal cup holder. He left a note saying, "Thank you for your excellent cleaning. 2 hours twice a week is a short time, even for someone as skilled as you. Please take an extra half hour occasionally for those one-off tasks like polishing the cup holders. I'll cover the extra time." After that, the office was always spotless. Feedback 3. Acknowledge your own mistakes. Principles. Offering feedback without acknowledging your own faults can make you seem like a superior figure criticizing a lesser one, which can make the person feel unimportant. Admitting your mistakes shows that you understand the challenges involved, making the person's errors more forgivable. This approach encourages equally shared growth and establishes mutual respect. Understand that your higher performance is mainly due to greater experience, leading to standards that others may not yet reach. This perspective applies to interactions with beginners and children. Expecting a child to make decisions like an adult is unrealistic, just as you wouldn't have made the same choices at their age. Tactics. Share examples of similar errors you've made in the past, whether at the start of your career or in a similar situation. For example, say, "I've made mistakes too, just like you." To children, you might say, "You'll gain better judgment with experience. You're already ahead of where I was at your age." Examples. A secretary struggled with spelling. The engineer she assisted had his own list of words he often misspelled. He approached her and said, "This doesn't seem right to me. I struggle with this word too, which is why I keep a list of words I often get wrong." Flips to page, "Yes, it's here. I double-check my spelling because it affects how others perceive us." A father wanted his son to quit smoking, even though he was a smoker himself. He talked about how he started smoking at a young age, how nicotine had overpowered him, and now found it too difficult to quit. He mentioned his persistent cough and declining health. Feedback 4. Ask questions instead of giving orders. Now that the problem is identified, discuss how to solve it. Principles. Rather than issuing commands, ask questions. This lets your partner reach their own conclusions. People tend to prefer their own ideas. It maintains their sense of control, value, and pride. Instead of just following orders, they are taking their own steps forward. This approach can also spark your partner's creativity, leading to new and better ideas. Tactics. Consider saying, "You might think of this. Do you believe that could work? Or what are your thoughts on this?" If you're unsure about the solution, consult with your team on possible actions. Examples. A manager at a manufacturing plant wanted to accept a big order but was unsure if they could meet the deadline. He asked his team, "Is there anything we can do to handle this order? Can we brainstorm different ways to manage it?" Feedback 5. Maintain the person's dignity. Principles. People want to feel valued. If you take that feeling away, they may become resentful and harder to work with in the future. It's important to let them keep their dignity, even when they are being corrected or disciplined. Tactics. The book doesn't offer clear steps on how to do this, but the focus is on preserving dignity and respecting what matters to them. Acknowledge that mistakes often happen due to momentary lack of attention or inexperience, not because of incompetence. If someone isn't suited to a role, emphasize their other strengths and highlight these positive aspects. Publicly show confidence in the person who made a mistake to maintain their social connections and prevent them from becoming a source of discomfort for others. Avoid public embarrassment. When letting someone go, explain it's not about their work quality, but because the business needs have changed. Highlight that the business supports them and believes in their future potential. Examples: when a top employee was moved down from a department head, instead of reverting to his old title, he received a new one, consulting engineer. An employee made a mistake on a project, requiring it to be redone. She apologized to her manager and promised to fix it before the next meeting. She expected anger in response. Instead, the manager appreciated her effort, noted that mistakes like this are not uncommon on new projects, and expressed his confidence in her abilities. He recognized it was due to lack of experience, not skill. Thanks to this supportive approach, the employee became determined to excel in the future. Feedback 6. Build a positive reputation. Guidelines. If you want to help someone improve, act as if they already excel in that trait. They will strive to meet that expectation rather than let you down. People want to feel important, and being recognized for certain traits makes them feel valued, encouraging them to maintain that feeling. Shakespeare once said, "Pretend you have a virtue, even if you don't." This mirrors the idea of appealing to someone's better nature. Strategies. When a great employee's performance dips, acknowledge their past achievements and reputation for doing excellent work. Emphasize that you are providing feedback because you believe they want to maintain high standards. To a frustrated customer, say, "I've always admired your patience and fairness. Please forgive us for our mistake." To someone who dismisses your ideas, say, "I've always respected your open-mindedness. I trust you're willing to reconsider if you have more information." Use this approach with people who often don't receive enough positive feedback. Highlight a quality you want them to focus on. Examples: a writer once complimented a hotel maid by telling her about the potential she possessed. Not used to recognition, the maid improved her self-care. A teacher dealt with a student known for causing trouble by calling him a natural leader and asking for his help to make the class great. She praised his every positive action, and he soon changed his behavior. A store manager improved a difficult pricing situation by making an employee responsible for price tags. This newfound responsibility changed her attitude completely. Feedback 7. Make improvement seem simple. Guidelines. If you tell someone they're not talented and will never improve, you take away their interest and hope. Instead, say they have the right skills and just need more practice to get better. Make the steps look easy. Approaches. Link it to something they've already mastered. Say, "It's just like when you did. This will be a breeze for you." Highlight one thing they're doing well, praise it, and then show how they can apply it to the whole task. Examples: dance teacher to someone struggling, "You've got a great sense of rhythm. You're a natural dancer." Dale Carnegie was nervous about learning the card game of bridge, which was new to him. His teacher reassured him, saying, "Bridge is just about memory and judgment. You've written books on memory. Bridge will be easy for you." Feedback 8. Consider their interests. Principles. Always think about what the other person wants and how your suggestion can meet those needs. Understand their desires and show how your idea benefits them. Tactics. When saying no to someone for a role, hint that they are too valuable for the position. If you have to decline a social event or speaking gig, suggest an alternative, like a different time or person, so they feel less let down. Make people feel special with new duties or job titles. Examples: when President Wilson chose one diplomat over another for a World War I task, the chosen diplomat told the rejected one, "Your presence would draw too much attention." He made the rejected diplomat feel important. A father asked his son to pick up fallen fruit, which the son disliked. He offered, "I'll pay you $1 for each full basket, but take away $1 for each fruit left." The son agreed. Napoleon created honors for his soldiers, giving them titles and calling them the Grand Army. When criticized for this, he said, "Men are ruled by tokens." A store manager needed the stockroom cleaned. Bad. Clean the stockroom for our visitors. Better. If we clean the stockroom now, it'll impress our customers, and you'll help show off our company. This approach appeals to the employee's pride and shows the benefit of acting now. Feedback 9. Celebrate every step forward. Basics. Encouraging every small step forward motivates people to keep getting better. Think about how you train a puppy. You give a little reward for each improvement, reinforcing good behavior. Why not do the same for people? Reflect on your past and recall times when a few kind words of praise changed the direction of your life. You can make this kind of difference for others, too. Tips. Be specific with your praise. Highlight a particular achievement rather than offering vague compliments. This makes your praise seem more genuine and helps you recognize real strengths. Some relationships, like the ones between parents and kids or bosses and employees, can get stuck in a negative cycle of criticism. Parents don't praise, kids rebel, parents get louder, and the cycle repeats. Break this pattern to start a positive cycle instead. Illustrations. Charles Dickens once dreamed of becoming a writer. Despite growing up in poverty and facing numerous rejections, one day an editor accepted his work and praised him. This support changed his life, proving he could succeed as a writer. A business owner noticed a new employee struggling. While the supervisor thought the employee had a bad attitude, the owner praised his work, pointing out exactly why it stood out. This encouragement improved the employee's outlook, and he became a dedicated worker. A father had a son who was struggling to learn due to a brain injury. The son couldn't master math by 7th grade and felt discouraged. The father made flashcards and practiced with his son, celebrating each improvement. They started at 52 minutes to solve the problems, gradually getting faster, until they achieved an 8-minute finish time by the end of the month.